Hi, it's James here from Hoxton Therapy. If you have any questions on mental health, trying to learn more about mental health, where do you go, or even if you've got questions on something else non-related to this video, like depression, anxiety, PTSD, relationship issues, anything like that, we have therapists that will answer these questions in future videos. So if you ask a question, we aim to answer it in our future videos. So, in today's video, we're going to be looking at researching mental health and how you can learn more about mental health. And that's coming up right after this. Oh yeah, like researching. So, like, if you don't have the money to go and get a therapist, because they're costly, but you think someone might be narcissistic or they might have depression, but also it's like anxiety, but then sometimes they're okay, what do you do if you can't afford to go and get an assessment? Well, the internet's there, but how do you trust the information? What's the route to finding out, trying your best to diagnose someone with limited resources? How do you do it?
How do you diagnose someone? Well, I think
not everyone's going to get the DSM.
I would the DSM. Yeah, this is a great big fat book full of diagnosis.
Yeah.
You've hit on one of my favourite subjects, actually, James, which is diagnosis itself.
Oh right.
Which I on a feeling level, I don't like. I don't like the whole idea of diagnosis.
Right.
It's I mean, diagnosis is a really big, psychiatric diagnosis is a really big industry.
Yeah.
Because it facilitates lots of big pharmaceutical companies making a lot of money because they've got a drug for everything, haven't they?
So there's a financial incentive.
I mean, if you and I can invent a new disorder today, go, I've got talking with James and Richard disorder. And if we can get it into the DSM, okay,
we're gonna make a load of money.
So, some pharmaceutical company will come up with a drug for it. We'll come up with a drug for it and make a load of money. And I have no inside information about what goes on between drug companies and doctors. But let's say I've read people express how suspicious they are about what the relationship is between pharmaceutical companies and health professionals. And so is the whole thing done ethically? I mean, I read in the newspaper only yesterday on the way down here to London that the doctors. Someone said, I went to see my doctor. He says, oh, well, you've got depression. Take these pills, wrote the thing out, gave the prescription in a 10-minute assessment.
Oh, no, they can't do it.
So there's a routine of like 10 minutes assessment. You've got depression. Here are the drugs. Come back and see me in 6 weeks' time, or whatever it is.
I had a doctor do this to me as well. I mean, I got through the depression at the time. Comes and goes. It's not as bad as it used to be, the intensity. But within 10 minutes, he was doing the same thing. So I've had that personally as well. And he didn't mention side effects until I brought it up. And then when I looked them up, I was like, oh my gosh. These are the things I saw at the time: a sex drive that goes away and never comes back. Depending on the antidepressant, in certain cases you can become murderous, suicidal if you don't come off them properly. And I think that's when I was like, I think there's a better way to do it than antidepressants.
Now, I personally would not go as far as to say antidepressants don't have a place and are useless, because I'm sure a lot of people have said, yeah, the antidepressants helped, particularly if it gets them through a crisis point. But I think too often antidepressants get in the way of someone seeking help with a therapist that addresses the underlying issues.
Well,
So,
it's cheaper to give someone who comes to the NHS a GP to give them antidepressants than put them on, 2 months of therapy or however long it takes.
So now I want to come on to another aspect of this thing called diagnosis that I don't like, which is nothing to do with drugs.
Right.
Which is to do with ultimately personal power and self-responsibility. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Mm-hmm. There's a tendency for people to say, I've got depression, or I've got narcissism, or I've got attention deficit disorder, or hyperactivity and attention deficit disorder. Mm-hmm. In fact, this word disorder seems to be multiplying at an enormous rate. There's a disorder for everything now.
And I often think, is it the right word to use?
Well, can we come back to that?
Yeah.
Because
diagnosis.
Anyway, so the diagnosis says I've got depression, and it's as though this depression is like a separate item to me. See, so let me just. I'm take this book for example. This represents my depression. You see, so if I think I've diagnosed myself as depressed, or my health practitioner has diagnosed that I'm depressed, and here's my depression, and I say, I've got depression. There's this foreign object inside me. So what do I want to do with the foreign object? I want to get rid of it. I want to go, oh, look at this horrible depression. It's like a disease, like measles or something.
Yeah.
I want to get rid of it. It's like having a horrible, smelly jumper.
Yeah.
You want to get rid of. Mm-hmm. And so then you've got this fantasy that you put this depression over there, you get rid of it, and then you're whole again, then you're healthy again. But I don't think things work like that. Really, I think people people who would say I've got depression actually are in a state of being depressed. So depressed is a state that people are in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I think this is a state that I'm in, then maybe I've got some power to change that state I'm in.
I don't know, but my question would be, or is there a way to use the depression to improve your life? Maybe, like Robin Williams, he had depression, and he said one of the ways that he got through his depression, unfortunately, didn't turn out too well. That's probably not a good example. But when he was alive, he said that he used the depression to help himself work harder. And I think men, from what little research I've done, men with depression often work much harder to do they? I don't know, do men with depression use hard work and long hours at work as a way of getting through depression?
Mm-hmm. So I've got two ways of approaching that question about using work as a way to get through depression. There are two different very different angles. One angle is someone addicted to work. Is someone, because if someone's addicted to work, eventually something might give. Something might break down. They're working too much, or there's something in their social relationships might break down, or they might lose their relationship with their partner, or end up feeling too stressed about all the work, etc. Or they might lose a sense of identity. If they just see themselves as this person who works all the time, they might lose, let's say, their aesthetic or their artistic side, or they might lose their sadness. So they might end up feeling not very whole. So it's working too much, stroke overwork, can possibly be a route to not feeling very happy. Which is, you mentioned Robin Williams, which might have happened with him. You said he used he kind of threw himself into his work in order to get through the depression. Well, I mean, why did he kill himself?
I don't know actually. What's the reason? Though?
I don't know, but I'm
theories. Only got theories. Never left a note. I don't think.
I'm just speculating that some areas of his life didn't sort of get a look in. That was squeezed out by all the stuff that we saw and the stuff that he knew about. I don't know. I haven't researched his case. Now, my other perspective is very different. This one, this is based on a philosophy expressed by Marcus Aurelius. Can't give you the date, but Marcus Aurelius, one of the
Greek guys,
Roman guys, 2,000 years ago-ish, or plus or minus a few hundred years. I don't know when. Anyway, he said the obstacle is the way.
The obstacle is the way.
The obstacle is the way. So what does that mean?
Oh yeah.
It's like saying, well, here's this, if you like, here's this horrible thing. Here's this awful thing that I've got to deal with. Whether it's depression in the example you said, Robin Williams, or whether it's some other illness. Say I've had some limbs. I've lost some limbs, or say, for example,
sports maybe. Training. Maybe as a bodybuilder, there's certain parts of your body that aren't as big as you want them to be. Could that be an obstacle?
Oh, okay. So you feel like you look at your body and go, "Oh, I'm not very well. My muscles aren't very good." That's an obstacle. The idea is, in the philosophy of the obstacle is the way, is saying, well, instead of trying to get away from that thing, that loss that I've had, that difficulty, that illness, that depression, I'm going to embrace it fully and go, well, this is part of me, and I'm going to do stuff, not in spite of it. I'm going to do stuff because of it. So, for example, I don't know, someone who, has lost some limbs might say, well, this isn't going to conquer me. I'm going to be a motivational speaker. I'm going to tell.
Oh, I know the guy you're thinking about, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so there might be a guy doing this already, or more than one guy. I don't know. But or someone who's depressed. You're suggesting Robin Williams might say, right, okay, I'm depressed. I'm going to go towards that depression, and I'm going to see how that can help me be the person I want to be. Instead of trying to kind of abolish it, or sidestep it, and do things in spite of it.
Hi, so I hope you enjoyed that video and you got something from it. If you didn't, leave a dislike, or maybe even just like the video. But more importantly, if you've got a question on mental health, maybe it's not related to what you were just watching, maybe there's something else that's been burning inside you for a long time that you just need answers on, but you can't go to therapy for whatever reason, then leave your question in the comment section below, and we will try our best to answer your question, whether it's in written form in the comments, or maybe it's a short video on Instagram, or a longer video on YouTube. Whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is you want to ask us, leave a comment below, and we will try our best to answer your questions in future videos. So whatever you do, please like this video, comment if you liked it, leave a dislike if you didn't like it, so we know if you didn't like it, and until next time, stay safe out there. It's like COVID-19 at the moment.